You're listening to the International Moving Podcast, your guide to moving to another country, brought to you by SDC International Shipping, LA's finest. An international move is exciting. It's a time to start over, establish a new business maybe, reestablish family ties, or retire where your budget will do more for you. Please enjoy today's episode, and if you have any questions about your international move, give us a call at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962. All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Jim for SDC International Shipping. Thanks for joining me for today's podcast episode. Today we're going to look a little bit into the shipping container topic. We're going to talk about the different dimensions, what can fit inside various sized shipping containers, 20-foot containers, 40-foot containers, high containers. Now, when we're looking at the topic of containers in general, let's start with a basic small box that you're putting something valuable inside. Think about how that needs to be properly packed. What I mean is, whenever we're shipping something, whether we're talking about just the regular mail or overseas freight or anything in between, the idea is to box an item or items in such a way that they're protected, meaning that they're not going to shift during transit. There's enough protective layers. If something drops or hits it, it's going to be protected on the inside. And then you can think about the different types of materials that you've seen personally when you've unpacked boxes where you've had items protected. Not that long ago, I bought a new computer system for work, and the boxes that it came in provided the kind of materials like a styrofoam type of little bumpers that made sure the monitor didn't touch the edges of the boxes. Everything was packed in such a way to minimize any type of movement or vibration of the computer parts inside the box. Everything was wrapped and taped. That's what we mean. That's what we mean by a proper packing of something inside of a container. Well, it's really no different when we're talking about large containers, because the same principles that apply to safety and security in a little container, the kind that we're used to seeing all the time, remain in place when we're talking about a large container. So the idea is that we don't want to have any open gaps inside that container where something can move, ship, or drop into, potentially damaging items that are being hit by other objects, or an object itself falling and hitting the ground, or something else. And so everything is tied down, properly anchored to eliminate movement during transit. And of course, when we're talking about boxes, if we're talking about a box that's going to be sitting on our table, we want to make sure it's a quality box. And when we begin to look at larger items, larger boxes, then we're looking at things like crates, right, that provide additional protection, wooden crates possibly, or the actual 20-foot or 40-foot steel container, which protects all of the items inside, which are additionally boxed. So you can see the need to do this professionally, to know what you're doing, to use the best materials possible to protect and safeguard all of your valuables. Some things are valuable to us because we paid a lot of money. Some things are valuable to us because they hold sentimental value. But it really doesn't matter. Value is value. And thankfully, we can work with companies like SDC International Shipping, where the individuals who do the packing and wrapping and transporting are used to doing this day in and day out. There are systems in place, readily available materials, and the experience that goes with having done this process over and over again. So when we're thinking about relocating overseas, when we get past the visas, residency visas, work visas, and all of that, and we get right down to it, when the actual relocation process is in effect, then we're looking at taking our lives and basically packing and wrapping all of our items, our things, our valuables, our furniture, maybe even our vehicles, and transporting them from point A to point B. Now, with SDC International Shipping, the great thing is this process is overwhelming for a lot of people. And I have to say, even for myself, I've been through the packing process before. I If I could afford it, I wouldn't want to go through that again. Maybe there's a few things that I'd want to pack for myself that are of particular value or interest to me, but for the most part, I would prefer hiring professional packers. Now, today, where I live here in South Florida, there are plenty of elderly people here, and some of them are moving overseas. They're just taking advantage of better climates. When I say better climates, it's nice here in Florida, but it does get very hot in the summertime. But some people are just ready for a new beginning. So whether you're in your 20s or in your 70s or even older, sometimes there's no better time than now than to begin a new chapter in your life or possibly enter your expat or retirement years in other countries, like somewhere in Europe or Central America, a place where maybe the lifestyle is more to your liking or the weather is more to your liking. As nice as it is where I live here in Florida, we do get very hot summers, and we also unfortunately have to deal with hurricanes. And I know there have been people who've lost quite a bit as far as their homes and their valuables go due to the destruction caused by a hurricane. So after that happens to you, maybe you've decided that you've had enough of sunny Florida and you want to relocate somewhere else. There's other places in the world, of course, that have comparable weather without the hurricanes. I guess we could say that every place has its pros and cons, but let's get back to talking a little bit more about the shipping containers, how they play into the preparation for the move. Let's go through that a little bit so you become a little more familiar with it. So when we're talking about shipping containers, we're basically associating that with ocean freight. You've seen those huge ships. I'm sure you've seen them on TV. If you've ever seen them live or you ever get the opportunity to see them live, they are humongous. Matter of fact, the first time I saw them, I thought to myself, it's amazing that people actually built that. They are that impressive. And if you see photos of them, the photos don't really do them justice because when you see the containers on the ships, the various colors, blue, yellow, red, all of those boxes on the ship, long boxes, those 20, 40-foot containers. You see the cranes moving them on. Sometimes you see it from a vantage point where you really don't appreciate the size and the dimensions of these items. And if you put yourself in there, you would just be standing at the door of one. I don't know how tall you are, but we're talking about 8 to 8.5 feet high, a little bit more than that. There's ones that are taller than that. And if we zoom out and see all of these containers, you would be like a little tiny dot on the boat in comparison with all of the other items around you. So these shipping containers are very impressive in size and what they can fit. So let me try and, I know you're listening to an audio podcast right now, but let's talk a little bit more about them so you can visualize it a little better. So the containers, these are also known as dry containers because they're designed for shipping clothes, furniture, household items, and that includes vehicles and cars. One of the nice things about putting a car in a container, when we're talking about safety and wrapping, is that container will protect it from everything. I mean, you don't have to worry about somebody bumping into it, driving something into it, something hitting it. I mean, you have that container shielding it from the outside elements. And so that goes a long way to making sure that your vehicle goes from point A to point B and arriving in the same condition that it left. So what happens is when you first start this process of talking to, let's say you're working with SDC International Shipping, they'll decide whether your best option is a 20-foot container or a 40-foot long container. And it largely comes down to the size and the volume of your shipment. So to be exact, when they make the calculations, they usually do it by arranging the survey of your home to record the items that are going to be shipped. And this is one of the first steps in deciding on the right size container. You'll be working with a logistics expert to help you figure out how much space you might need. And the whole process starts by requesting a shipping quote online. You can go to sdcinternationalshipping.com, and right there on the top, you have a little white box that says moving from, moving to, and you just get started there. You put in your information, you hit next, and when you've completed everything, you will be contacted, and they will give you the estimate and they'll get additional information from you. Now, how big is a 20-foot container? Can you fit your entire household into it? Now, there is uh, a table with exact shipping container dimensions on our website. And even if you're looking at the dimensions of the container, you might be saying to yourself, well, this information really doesn't tell me much of anything. We understand that sometimes numbers don't give you the complete picture because most of us, myself included, our brains, our minds work better when we visualize things. So imagine dozens of refrigerators or washing machines or even those boxes of bananas in a container, putting them into a container. Okay. So a 20-foot container could fit up to 60 refrigerators or 100 washing machines or 48,000 bananas in boxes. Okay, does that give you a little better visual? Or how about this? Mattresses. 200 full-size mattresses can be easily loaded into a 20-foot container. 200 full-size mattresses. Now, what about a 40-foot container? Okay, you just double that. So a 40-foot container is perfect for moving large households like 3 or 4 bedroom homes with a living room, a dining room, a kitchen, miscellaneous space. And depending on the volume of your boxes or the pallets that are being brought along, you can also ship a vehicle along with your household goods in a container of that size. Now, I have heard that a vehicle can be fit into a 20-foot container, and that takes up about 2/3 of the container, and then other items can be stored around it. So 20-foot containers are the most popular that I'm aware of today in 2024 in the household goods shipping industry. And that's for a reason. The size is convenient. They can easily be handled on a vessel, and that way it reduces the shipping costs. Now, for taller cargo, they have a counterpart. It's a 20-foot high cube container, and that contains extra headroom. So again, every move is different. People are moving different types of items, different volumes of items, and so a lot comes down to your specific use case. Now, 40-foot container, like I said, can transport larger quantities of household items all at once. It's also economical. It's an efficient mode of transportation. So no matter what the shipping container sizes are that you need, those containers are tough. I was told that they are watertight. Those were the words that are actually used. I'm not an expert on containers, but I have to say that as of the information that's available to me, you'd have to talk to someone directly at SDC. I think there's a difference between watertight and waterproof. In other words, a wave hitting something that's watertight water will not penetrate it. Or if anything penetrates, it'd be so minor or be insignificant. That was my understanding of what watertight means. Waterproof, on the other hand, it's kind of like water resistant and waterproof, the difference between that. If the whole container was dropped into the ocean and sank to the bottom, it would be filled with water. That's my guess between the two. The reason why I say that is because if you've ever had a cover for your car, if you have a car that you leave outside, there's a difference between a water resistant and waterproof. Water resistance is if you get a little shower, it's not going to soak through to the vehicle beneath it. Waterproof means the water just rolls off of it. It's designed to be that way. But in either case, no one's going to be dropping a 20-foot container or a 40-foot container into the ocean. So the idea here is that whether you're looking at one size or the other, watertight means it's going to be safe from your items getting wet inside. Now, there's also such a thing as a full container load, which means your load fills up an entire container regardless of the size. And that's what you pay for, a full container. But there's times where you don't need a full container because, when you get right down to it, your household goods do not do not require, let's say, a full 20-foot container. So in that case, you can use what's called a less than container load. Your goods, along with the goods of maybe another household or a few other households that have smaller amounts, smaller items, can all be put together in a single container, a shared container, and you'll save money that way because you're not paying for the full container, you're sharing that cost with another family or other individuals. So that's another option that you have available most of the time, depending on where you're moving from. If you're moving from California to wherever, absolutely. So yeah, you don't have to buy more than you need. I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make when we're talking about when you don't have a complete full container worth of items to move, less than container load. So that's what FCL means, full container load, or LCL, less than container load. Even if you forget the acronyms, just remember that if you don't have enough to fill a full container, then you have options available to you rather than paying for more than you actually need. How much does it cost to move a shipping container? I was just talking with someone about this a while ago, and the estimate now, this recording is being made in 2024, March of 2024. The average transportation cost of a 20 or 40-foot shipping container can range from anywhere between $10,000 to $20,000. Now, when I say how much does it cost to move a shipping container, we're talking about full door-to-door service, meaning that everything is loaded from your home onto a container, on a truck, to the ship, to your ultimate destination, off the ship, onto a truck, and to your door. Full door-to-door service, $10,000 to $20,000 is the estimate. And that's for full containers, in other words. Again, it's an estimate. So if you're doing less than container load or you're sharing a container, then it can be lower than that. But there are other services that people pay for that would not be included in that, such as packing. So maybe you want people to do all the packing and maybe even the unpacking, preparing paperwork for customs clearance in the US and in your destination country, moving insurance, import duties, and taxes. The nice thing is you're not going to get hit with any surprise charges. You're going to know what everything costs before you commit to anything because you'll be working with an expert who understands your destination country. And maybe in some cases, it's not worth it to bring a vehicle over. It makes more sense to sell that vehicle and use that money for something else. Maybe buy another smaller vehicle wherever it is that you're going to, or use public transportation for a while. When we're talking about moving to countries like in the UK, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, we're talking about vehicles that are going to be used on, right side driving. So the steering wheel here in the U.S., left-hand side of the car, and we drive on the left-hand side of the road. Right-hand driving, everything is kind of reversed. So if you've seen the movies or you've been there before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I know they do allow cars, right-hand driving cars on left-hand driving roads, and I'm not sure if we allow that here or not. As long as you're on the right side of the road, you're not going to cause an accident. But as far as where the steering wheel is concerned, I don't think there's a problem with that. But again, that may not be something that you want to do, may not be an expense that you want to incur. Maybe if you have a classic car, absolutely, but maybe not. Okay, so now how do the shipping containers work for the actual moving process? I talked a little bit about it before, but after all of your things are packed, boxed, or crated, what happens is, and let's talk in terms of SDC International Shipping, SDC will bring the container to your home, load your belongings, and then transport them to the closest seaport. Now, in some cases, depending on where your home is located, the container can be brought right there, right up in front of your house. Everything goes directly into it. In some cases, it may not be possible because the access from the street to your house, there may be some issues there, but it will be moved as close as possible. And then again, everything goes into that container, and that container goes to the closest seaport. And then once your shipment arrives at the destination and clears customs, then you can arrange for its delivery to your new address. But if you do the door-to-door service, which is highly recommended, then you don't have to worry about any of this because there'll be somebody waiting there. They already know it's coming. You won't have any surprises. All you have to do is just wait while the entire job is being done for you. So it can all be done for you from the point that you're leaving from. It can all be done for you at your destination. Because let's face it, if you're moving internationally, you have other things that you have to take care of. Things having to do with maybe having your utilities turned on. There's just a whole lot of things that go into moving. I don't have to, if you've ever moved anywhere before, I know I don't have to tell you that. Plus just getting used to your new location, a new country, and being involved in everything that's going on there on the other side of your move. Now, SDC International Shipping also provides storage solutions. So, for example, maybe you can't receive your belongings on that day for whatever reasons when it comes over. And so maybe everything is going to go from a container to a warehouse somewhere for several days, several weeks, maybe even several months, because maybe as far as your final location goes, maybe it's not going to be ready, or you're going to have a temporary apartment for a month or two, and then you'll move into a home from there. So you don't have to worry about any of that. Storage solutions are available. And again, remember, even though this is something that maybe you're doing for the first time and you've heard stories, just know that SDC International Shipping does this day in and day out. That SDC International Shipping has been doing this for 14 years, that there are highly trained people who will be taking care of you. And there's all kinds of international moving companies that specialize in different things. Some specialize almost solely on the moving of vehicles. Can they move households too? Yes, they can, but that's not their specialty. Their specialty is moving cars, trucks, vans, motorcycles, and that type of thing. At SDC, we specialize in household moves. And so that's why we take extra care, because we know exactly what it's like from a family standpoint and making sure that your items are well taken care of. We understand how delicate certain things are. We understand that these are your valuables. This is your life. It's much different than just a car or a motorcycle. So, all right, I think that does it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach us at sdcinternationalshipping.com. You can call us at our toll-free number, whichever works for you. We even have a contact form you can fill out if you would rather do it that way. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Share it with a friend, and I will see you in the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for listening. Whether you're relocating within the country or moving to the other side of the world, we're here to help from start to finish. Connect with us today at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962.